Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. When you first start learning the piano, you very quickly realise that it might be harder and the road might be slightly longer than you expected. But it doesn't have to be. If you manage your expectations and treat playing the piano in a different way, then you can make it a much more enjoyable experience and get better much faster. So here are 5 expectations about learning the piano that aren't necessarily true. So number 1, you will get to the end of learning. I think this is the case for most arty things in life, but you will not and should not expect to ever feel like you are perfect at playing the piano. Piano is a creative endeavour and you will always be learning and developing your skills. I've been playing piano for so many years, and I've been teaching piano for 11 years at this point, and I am still learning all of the time. So if you find that you are thinking that grade 8 means you have finished, or that once you are able to do a certain thing that means you're done, the reality is you will never be done with learning the piano, so you should enjoy the small wins and feeling of getting better, rather than rushing towards completing the piano. That's already too many air quotes. Number 2, you can learn piano by skipping the bits that you don't like. I've seen lots of people say, I don't like music theory, so I'm just going to learn by ear. I don't like chords, so I'm just going to read the notes individually. I don't like sight reading, so I'm just not going to do it. The list goes on. Most of the time, the words I don't like actually means I'm not very good at, and the thought of having to put in the work to get good at it when you think there is a quick way of getting the same or similar results just isn't appealing. Well, everything in music is linked. Learning to read helps you music theory, learning music theory helps with learning by ear helps with your theory, and so on. I really recommend not trying to find shortcuts to be able to get a quick fix to the problems that you may face when playing the piano. You will very much appreciate that advice once you've learnt the things that you are trying to avoid, because you will find that you can be 10 times more creative and have so many more tools to use as a player. And ultimately, I'll go back to my first point, which was that you should enjoy the process and the small wins, and just know that you will be able to look back and see a ton of progress. Number 3, there is only one way to learn the piano. Now, obviously, you want to try and be a holistic player, someone who is able to play piano in a number of ways. But how you get to that will be largely determined by what your goals are. If you want to be a pop pianist, then you are most likely not going to start by understanding how to play Bach. You will probably start with chords and structure and music theory. Then from there you can understand how to read music to help your playing, and then you might want to venture into understanding the history of how pop music has become what it is. But everything you learn is with the goal of being a better pop pianist, and that will mean that you acquire the skills from other genres of music along the way. Essentially, you don't have to learn grades and be a classical pianist, and equally you don't have to be focused on jazz or pop. So your piano journey will end up being a tailored experience that will hopefully end up with having all of the same information. Number 4, it's possible to learn the piano without music theory. I have already alluded to this, but learning the piano is not something you can do without including lots of different types of learning, and everything you learn on the piano is some form of music theory. If you learn chords, that's music theory. If you learn to read, that's music theory. If you learn to improvise, that's also music theory. When someone says they don't want to learn music theory, what they mean is they don't want to learn unnecessary music theory that you don't need. Well, that doesn't actually exist. It's very much a case of you don't know what you don't know. As soon as you know a piece of music theory information and really understand it and use it, you will see how valuable that is for your playing. An example of this is understanding time signatures. Now, time signatures are simply how many beats there are in a bar, and all that means is how many beats you count before you hear the next strong beat. For example, 4 beats in a bar is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 3 beats in a bar is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. No matter what genre of music you end up playing on the piano, this piece of information will drastically change how you approach, how you feel, and how you play that music. Now, I know that was a quick example and it may not really sell it to you, but trust me, if you understand what you are doing on the piano, the process will be more fulfilling and you'll be able to experiment and explore much more easily. Number 5, if you repeat a piece of music a lot of times, the mistakes will fix themselves. While yes, I agree that repetition when practicing is essential, the problem lies with how you do this. So the assumption here is that blindly repeating a song or piece over and over again will help you eventually be able to play that song or piece. Well, this isn't really the case, and this comes down to one key reason. In order to play something correctly, you have to play it correctly. I will say that again. In order to play something correctly, you have to play it correctly. Now, when I say it like that, it sounds obvious, but when you play some music through over and over, gliding over the mistakes, hoping that each time they will get better, what you are really doing is practicing in those mistakes. which will just make it then harder to correct. The way you should be practicing is by trying to find and isolate problems and fix those problems. How you do that will be different depending on what the issue is. For example, if you can't get the rhythm right, then you slow it down and you count. If you keep playing a wrong note, then you deliberately play the correct note with just a couple of the surrounding notes. If there is an awkward jump, then you make up an exercise to practice that jump. The point is, no matter what you are practicing, if you really want to progress, you need to try and make sure you have a list of problems and actively fix them, rather than aimlessly playing and hoping it will get better. Of course, you should sit down and play for fun, but you shouldn't expect this to be what makes you a better player. So make sure you carve out some time to properly practice as well. If you have any expectations about the piano that you have found not to be true, be sure to let me know in the comments. And if you found this video useful, before you go onto this video, be sure to hit me with one of those fat likes and subscribe, and I will see you next time.